To quote that '70s show, what a long, strange trip it's been in Aaron's dad's basement?
Dynamic and clear!
So, after 10 long, grueling, wonderful years and 5-part finales, Attack on Titan is finally over. That's right. The journey itself is no more. The journey we made friends along the way, we burned some bridges along the way, but hey, here we are. It's over. So in this video, I want to give my thoughts and opinions and feelings on the finale and the series itself now that it's finally come to a conclusion. But before I do that, please consider subscribing and following down below. I appreciate it. And if you don't, I will have to inject you with some sort of serum. I'm not saying what the serum will do to you. I'm not saying what kind of person you will become. I just might have to use it. So please, do us both a favor. So the last episode was an hour and a half long, and boy do I wish it was a movie. How cool would it have been to go to the theater and see this finale take place with everybody who was into the show that you were into, everybody all dressed up in their ODM gears and their outfits and long hair galore. It would have been a magical time. So I think that's a missed opportunity on Mappa's part, and whoever is in charge of that, there should have been something done about that. And also, side note, Crunchyroll, you need to figure out how to better organize your app, because when I went on, it was like Attack on Titan seasons 1 through 4, and then it was like season 66, I guess. I didn't realize this, and I clicked on it and I watched the last episode that's in that 66 whatever, and it ended up not being anything to do with the finale at all. It was like Mikasa and how she feels about following Eren. So I watched that by accident instead of watching the finale because of the way it was organized. And they always do that though. Like with the Demon Slayer, they'll put a Demon Slayer season 1, and then they'll separate it into Demon Slayer, the final train arc, whatever. And it's just a weird organization. They should fix that. But eventually I got there and I finished the episode, and yeah, it's a lot to take in. I know the big thing right now is, hey, we got the ending. Oh, by the way, spoilers. If you've never watched Attack on Titan, why are you watching this video? This is literally a recap of the last episode. So I guess if you haven't read or watched Attack on Titan at all and you don't know anything about it, go do that first and then come back and watch this. Unless you don't care, then I guess continue watching. But yeah, gonna be massive spoilers here for the final episode. So if you haven't watched it yet, go do that now. So the big talk around town is, hey, was this ending pointless? And that was the whole argument, I guess, when the manga ended itself, and how everybody kind of didn't really like it. They were like, hey, what kind of ending is this? This is pointless. Referring to the fact that Eren did all this to stop the Titans and all the wars and whatever, and through the credit scenes and all that stuff, we see in the passage of time that war, no matter what, will continue to happen no matter what you do. So it's like, hey, did he do all that for no reason at all, because it still happened no matter what? And the big counter argument that I see is that, hey, it's not pointless. He did this to bring peace to his friends and his immediate circle, and give them the chance to have the most peaceful life that they could within the parameters of the universe of Attack on Titan. So, the curse being like, if you are a Titan holder, you only have like a certain amount of time to live. I forgot off top what it is. I think it's like 7 years to live. And yeah, so by doing this and getting rid of all the Titans, he lifts the curse and you can live out your remaining days. So in that way, he did get his dream, because if you do pay attention to the credit scenes, you see all of the characters do age up and die of old age. They don't die because someone attacked their town or whatever. They just lived out their days as old people. And then years after that, that's when everything started, coming back around with fighting and all that stuff. So that will always be a thing in the world. There's always going to be some sort of conflict and wars going on, and we can't stop that. But the most that we can do is control what we have in front of us, and that's like our family and our friends and our loved ones and all that stuff. So Eren did the best that he could to do that. He did all this. He killed all these people. He killed 80% of the population just to achieve his dream. And man, what a W man's, right? He did all this for his friends. He's a true homie. So those are the 2 points really on the ending itself. I know when I first, saw the ending, I didn't read the manga, so I didn't know how it ended. I just heard that people didn't like it. When it ended, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's true. That's exactly what would happen. Mikasa would just live her life and not love again and all this stuff, and then it would continue back up again. And I was like, hey, it's realistic. I couldn't be mad at it. I didn't see it as pointless. I was just like, hey, Eren did his thing. That happened. Hey, man, it is what it is, but the world will continue no matter what. So the ending itself, I think, is realistic, and yeah, you can't really write a happy ending to the story. I guess I know that's like a big thing with everybody who's like, oh, you're a typical shonen reader, whatever, you want like a happy ending, and it's like, well, yeah, you can't really get a happy ending within this universe because it was never really a happy show. It's a big commentary on war and how everybody is shitty during conflict. There's no winners in war, basically. And so with that premise, it's like, well, yeah, you can't really do much about it. So the ending, I believe, is fine. No biggie. I didn't think that it should have ended differently. I don't think that they should have ended up together and in love and all this stuff. It's just like, yeah, sometimes you don't get what you want in this world. You just gotta hope for the best and do the best you can for those around you. And Aaron did exactly that. He did the best he can for those around him. I mean, not the best. He is still shitty. And it's funny because I keep seeing the question of Itachi versus Eren. It's like, would you rather kill your family to save a lot of people, or would you rather kill a lot of people to protect your family? And it's just like, what do you pick? The duality of man. What is your decision? Very thought-provoking on that question specifically. So whatever you choose, let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to hear it. What do you think is the better moral to have, I guess, or the better dilemma to endure? I don't know. You let me know down below. But the episode itself, getting past the ending, was amazing. Mappa did a great job. The animation in this was top-notch. I like that they didn't really do much of like the 3D shit, which, you know, is a problem sometimes. They kind of stayed away from that and they did like more traditional animated styles. And yeah, seeing the fights happen on top of Eren's back was crazy. It was just like top-notch. And I like the fact that they brought it back to like the traditional Attack on Titan and what I fell in love with, which was them using the ODM gear to get around and like doing crazy shit in the air and slashing up Titans. And that was the cool thing for me in this show, was seeing that happen again, because Titans are cool, but when they got to that point and they were just like big kaijus fighting, I was like, oh yeah, it's fine, but like I kind of miss like just the bare bones of it, like them just flying around and overcoming these giants as little humans. So I did enjoy the fact that they brought back those scenes, and, you know, Levi was going crazy, of course, with his ODM gear like he always does, and Mikasa was doing her thing, and it was cool to see them get back to that. That was like a high point for me. And yeah, within the fighting though, we got to see Reiner finally like unleash himself and be an armor titan without any like holding himself back, because, you know, he always has like a mental struggle and like he's always worried about what's right and what's wrong and all this stuff. But he was like, in that moment, to stop Eren, he's like, that's my goal. I have to do what I must. I don't care what happens around me. And he was just going off, just like the drop kick that he does. Oh man, it was perfect. It was just like pitch perfect the way he did it. It was just like boop, knocked the dude out, and it was funny. So yeah, seeing Reiner finally like go and unleash himself was very cool. And Peak also, shout out to her. She was just like, I'm gonna keep transforming. You can't stop me. And that was cool to see her do that, because she was like, as long as I'm alive, I'm gonna keep transforming. And I know a lot of you guys don't have that ability. You guys have like a limited transformation, whatever. I don't have that. So seeing her do that was really interesting and fun. And the fact that she was like the first one to just be like, I don't care about this plan. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna just run towards his neck and chop it off like I'm supposed to. And she almost got away with it. And she's like the main reason that they did get away with it, because she threw the dynamite on Eren's neck. And yeah, that was the main point to it. So shout out to Peak, shout out to Reiner. They were killing it. Everybody else, they were okay. They didn't really, I mean, the story points, yes, they were fine. But like as far as like the fighting goes, like Connie and John, they were like kind of holding everybody back. Connie's the reason that Levi got, you know, all messed up. So man, fucked up. But speaking of Levi, seeing him finally get his revenge, that was like, oh, cheering to myself while watching this. Seeing him just chop Zeke's neck off with like no hesitation. He just straight went for it. Like Zeke came out of the pathways and was like, hey, Levi, I'm over here. And Levi was like, oh, word, and just went for it. And I'm like, you know what? Good for Levi. He got to get his revenge on Zeke for doing all that shit to him. But also, he did end up ultimately alone in the end. I feel like he has like, I guess, kind of like the saddest ending. He just kind of was paralyzed and he was hanging out, giving out lollipops. Just, he was a tired man the entire show. He's a very tired man. Towards the last seasons, I guess, especially. He was going through it. So I was glad that Levi finally got to get a win in his eyes. And just seeing everybody like get their own personal like closure, like Annie finally meeting her father. But seeing her father after so many years. Reiner and his mom just letting him know like, hey, you're a good person, man. You don't need to hold so much in. And he's like, you know what, you're right. And all that happiness, but then to see it almost get torn away because they get turned into Titans because the fucking centipede thing just gassed everybody. That part is the one that got me the most, was Connie and John just talking to each other, like accepting their fate, like with the gas coming in. They're like, you know what, yeah, it's always us, right? We always got to deal with this stuff. And he was like, yeah, we're soldiers, what can we expect? Hugging each other, and that's just like the saddest thing, seeing them go out like that. Like, it's cool because like that's what they're supposed to do, like as soldiers, just go out like on your sword basically, but they're just kind of like accepting their fate, like, hey, well, this is it, you know, it's been real. All right. And of course, the saddest part that everyone's talking about is Eren and Mikasa's love finally coming to fruition, coming to the forefront, seeing the flashback of them with each other in the cabin scene, and them having a few years at least with each other before they decided, hey, I gotta do this plan that I've seen in my past. I'm the reason this all has to happen. Their love story, it was nice to see unfold after all this will they, won't they, finally at the end, him seeing her opening his eyes for the first time and seeing her chopping his head off and her reflection in his eyes. It was like, oh, beautiful seeing them get that, but also very bittersweet because I get to see you and, you know, I'm gonna kiss you and all this stuff, but I have to kill you. Like, sad day. But also the fact that Eren had to confess his love finally to Armin in the pathways, but like Mikasa's never gonna hear it. He only confessing to Armin, which is like the funniest thing to see him finally like drop the bad boy act and be like, I lied. I don't want her to move on. I don't want her to have a good life. I want her to always remember me and want me for who I am. And Armin's like, oh, it's crazy. This whole time that you've been wanting and feeling this way, you never really even hinted at the fact that you felt that way about her. But now that you're about to die, this is how you feel. And it's just like, yeah, well, I guess in the moments of your last moments, you're thinking of all these things that you wish you should have said. So it's funny to see that this is what he's thinking towards his last breaths, basically, and the fact that Armin was there to like hold his hand and be like, you know what, you'll be fine. I'll see you in hell, buddy, because we're both going there, because this is not your burden to bear. This is both of us. We both had equal parts in this entire rumbling situation. So, yeah, good to see them hug it out towards the end too. So even though he didn't physically get to say goodbye to Armin, he got to say goodbye to him, you know, in the pathways. So they got their goodbye, and Mikasa and Eren got their last final goodbye. So wrapping their story up, very sweet, very sad. And just seeing it all finally come to an end after all these years, it's crazy. And to think like how many things were connected from the beginning, especially like towards the end, how the end of Attack on Titan connects to the beginning when she's like saying goodbye to Eren when they're in the cabin scene together, and she's like, you know what, see you later, Eren, and like they're by the tree, and like that, her saying Eren is him waking up in the first episode, and she's like, hey, why are you crying? And he had the whole entire vision of what was to happen and unfold in his dream, which wasn't a dream, it was all reality. He just connected to different points of his life through the pathways, and it's just like, oh, beautiful connection, the way that it just roundabout connected towards the end. It's like, oh man, all this, he saw this all happen once he, you know, kissed Historia's hand. Like, kind of like Doctor Strange in Endgame. It's like, I've seen all these timelines, and the only one that I can protect you all in is this one where I have to do all this stuff, and I have to set this entire plan in motion. I have to, like he mentions, I have to be the one to let my mom die. I can't stop Bertolt from, you know, transforming, whatever. He has to do this. This all has to go according to the plan, because ultimately I'm doing all this for you guys, and I need you guys to have the happiest lives possible, and I'll sacrifice myself for that, which is super sad. And it's crazy to think that this is what the entire show has been up to. It's like this whole time they weren't fighting this outside threat, whatever. They're just pretty much fighting to keep Eren's plan alive. And I saw something too, like someone said that the reason he chose this, and the reason he chose this plan or whatever, the reason he went back in time and all this stuff, was because it was the only plan that would allow him to have a somewhat normal childhood. So him not knowing or forgetting all of the memories until he touches Historia was all part of his plan. Like, this is the plan that allows me to live, you know, my adolescence in as much innocence as possible. But when I get to that certain point and I touch Historia's hand, I'm gonna remember all this, and I have to realize what I have to do. So at age 13, my life's over. I gotta focus the rest of my existing life onto making this plan happen. So crazy to think about that too. And it's just like, yeah, so many things that connected, and so many reasons for all this, and it's just like a beautiful story that was told throughout. And it's very satisfying to see like something as big as this show and how big as it got come to a rather satisfying ending, and see the vision fulfilled and not get messed up towards the end, because I know a lot of shows that we watch kind of fumble it towards the end, but this one I feel like didn't really fumble it. It remained strong throughout, and every season we got was better than the other. That meme of the horse where it just like starts off detailed and it gets like shittier as the drawing goes. No, this was Attack on Titan where it's like detailed, and towards the end the horse is on fire. That was truly the embodiment of Attack on Titan as an entire series. And yeah, it's just like a crazy journey that we've been on, and like seeing it all unfold, especially not having read the manga and having been like being only an anime watcher. I feel like it was that much better for me and those involved who were just anime onlys. Like anybody who read the manga was probably like, oh, this is what's gonna happen, blah 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 blah. Like it wasn't as magical for them. I feel like you can read it and you read it at your own pace, and it's just like, well, I finished it, now what? But as anime watchers, we get to see it at a much slower pace, but maybe a pace that the creator wanted us to get it, to consume it. He didn't want us to finish it like in one night, whatever. He wants us to sit with it and think about it every so often. And even the first to second season, the 4 years that we waited, whatever, was it all part of his plan? Who knows? But the fact that his vision came to life and we got to see it unfold was just like, thank you. Great show. What can you say?
Alright guys, crazy thing happened. I filmed an outro, but for some reason it didn't save on my camera, so I don't know what happened to that. But anyway, I just wanted to give you guys my final thoughts here on the season and the series as a whole. So I think it goes without saying that this is a perfect 10 out of 10 series. The finale itself also was a 10 out of 10 for me. This is one of those shows that will transcend the genre of anime. The impact of it itself is just so big that the people who don't normally watch anime have probably heard of it by this point because the impact is so huge. It's one of those shows that you can put in your top 5 where no one's really going to argue with you. It's kind of like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you say, hey, this is in my top 5, people will look at you and be like, oh, you know what, I agree. But if you put any other show like Naruto or Bleach, they're going to try to find a way to break that point down. But I feel like Attack on Titan has cemented itself in top 5 status, and it's one of those ones you cannot argue. Its impact and its quality and its story itself. And it's definitely a show that's going to get better with time. I feel like even the ending itself, the more you sit with it, the more you think about it, I think it's going to become one of those classics that everyone's going to be like, you know, that show really nailed it. And for me, I agree. And a show like this has taken so long to finish. It really makes you reflect and think about all the people who maybe didn't get to see this show end. The people who this show has been a huge impact on maybe did not make it all the way to the end. And for those people, know that just how it began, strong and amazing, it ended the same exact way. Strong and amazing, and it stayed that way throughout. This show was truly magical, and I'm glad that I got to experience it at least once in my life. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Also, you can follow us down below in the description box, and you can comment down below whatever you have on your mind currently about any thoughts you have on the show and the ending itself and the series itself. I'd love to read them and comment back to all of you. And until next time, go start a rumble.